I'm going to give you the honest inside scoop on what's really happening in the real estate market today and why the National Association of Realtors will have to pay a settlement of $418 million that is going to change the housing market forever. This major change is going to affect the way that we buy and sell real estate in the future, but make sure you stay all the way to the end because I'm going to break down how things are going to look going forward, and you need to know this so that you can protect yourself if you are buying a house in the near future. Hey, my name's Iris. Welcome to my real estate channel. I help savvy homebuyers navigate this wild and crazy housing market. Now, as a home buyer, have you ever stopped to wonder how a real estate agent gets paid? When you click on that little schedule tour button on the Zillow app, do you realize what's happening there? Most people buying homes think that Zillow is paying a real estate agent to show you these properties that you find on Zillow or Realtor.com. Or some brokerage is paying real estate agents to show you these homes, but the truth is, most of us are commission-based, and that means we don't get paid a dime until you actually settle on the house. But before we get into how this affects you and what this all means for you going forward, you have to understand how commission works as well as the history behind it, and I promise it'll all come together and make sense. When I sold my first house, I had no idea what I was doing. I knew how to buy a house. I had purchased two by the time I was in my early 20s, but selling the house was a completely different story. My boss was a real estate agent at the time, so maybe he just assumed that I already knew how the whole process went. All I remember is him walking through my house, telling me how much clutter I had, and to clean it up or he's not coming back. At the time, I had two toddlers and it was pretty messy. And now I can understand where he was coming from, because as you go into a house and you see toys and kids things everywhere, it's such a distraction. But anyway, that's a different video. But he wasn't being mean. He was just looking through the lens of a home buyer, which I appreciated because I quickly scrambled everything up, threw it into the closets, all the kids' toys, all their little toddler things. You know how messy that can get. And I just shoved everything into a closet. Even on my clean days, my house wasn't really clean. But I was going through a divorce, so it was something that had to be done. I signed a bunch of things that I don't even remember signing. I just knew that it had to be done to get these two sales over with. Next, I remember the photographer came in and took a few photos, and then my house was listed on the MLS, or the multiple listing service platform that real estate agents use. I was getting emails about showings, and then we got a couple offers. We went over the best one. I was advised which ones to accept. On the townhouse that we sold, it was a cash offer. And so that's why we went with that one. It was a fair offer, 2-week close, and that was really helpful for our situation at the time. And then he told me to talk to a tax professional, and that was pretty much it. I really don't remember getting into the details about how he was getting paid and how the buyer agent was getting paid. It was all such a whirlwind that I didn't even know what questions to ask, if I even had any questions. But one thing I do remember is never being talked to about paying a buyer agent. I thought I was just paying my listing agent. And of course, the title fees, I knew all of that. Now that I'm in real estate, I see things a bit differently, and I'll explain why. But first, here's how it works. The listing agent negotiates a fee for the seller, and that fee is split between the buyer agent and the seller's agent. It's a cooperative effort leading to the successful sale of a house. The seller essentially has two agents working for them. The reason I see things differently now is that as I'm out house hunting, I see how buyers react to listings that don't offer a buyer agent fee. When this all first came about, I was super excited. I was like, great, sellers don't have to pay the buyer's agent. They can save a lot of money there. I can get this house sold without a buyer's agent. I know that a lot of buyers can either hire their own real estate agent or they're pretty savvy and they can figure it out on their own. I know that there's a lot of emotions involved, but basically it's good to have a buyer's agent that is there to kind of help buffer that part of real estate, because when you're going in and you're spending a ton of money buying this house, you don't want to feel like you're making the wrong decisions. I feel like for a lot of buyers, it's totally worth paying that buyer agent fee. But, as I'm out there, I'm noticing more and more that buyers don't want to spend more money than they already have and that they're already spending on the house that they're going to buy. And so I see how they react to listings that don't offer a buyer agent fee. And they will usually skip right over that house. And right now, VA buyers, they can't even pay a buyer agent fee, even if they wanted to. Now, how backward is that? They've got all these new rules coming out and they haven't even thought things through situations where a VA buyer is going to need some type of workaround. And who's going to finance commission? Like, I don't think financing commission is a good idea because you're going to pay way more in the long run and it reduces your home buying power. So I don't think people have really thought this through and they aren't moving fast enough to get this corrected for our military buyers using that VA loan. So sellers are really missing out on a huge pool of home buyers by not offering that fee and missing out on getting the maximum value for their homes. But if a seller knows how to market the property correctly without overpricing it, they'll be able to sell it on their own. They're just probably not going to get the max amount when they're limiting their pool of buyers. So where did this buyer agency fee come from in the first place? It's not common practice in other countries, so why do we do this here in the US? Well, Housing Wire has a great article about the history of the buyer agency. Now, before the 1990s, buyers often found themselves navigating the real estate market without formal representation, leading to vulnerabilities and challenges, especially for those with limited resources. Recognizing the need for change, real estate professionals took the initiative to pioneer a solution which ended up being that commission sharing or cooperative compensation. In their eyes, they were just trying to be helpful. This innovative approach, where listing agents agreed to divide the commissions to accommodate buyer representation, helped to protect the buyer's interest. It not only benefited buyers by providing a dedicated person to represent them during the process, but streamlined the process for listing agents, ultimately benefiting everyone involved. So the buyer did all of the buyer things like inspections and house shopping, and the listing agent could just focus on listing things like repairs and title transfer and all the listing side problems that come up. However, with the recent lawsuit, the Department of Justice wants to shift the responsibility compensating buyers agents onto buyers themselves. And this poses challenges and unintended consequences, like I had mentioned earlier about the whole VA thing. These changes, they're going to deter some buyers, like those with limited budgets, from seeking professional representation. There are things that buyer agents know. Like for me, I know how to navigate things to where I've been told that this sounds too good to be true. I know where to get the interest rate that is going to be up to 1% less. Like I've been able to get buyers up to 1% less. I've been able to negotiate some things, but just that guidance and coaching, I see transactions and I feel like I could have really helped that buyer get that price point down. I could have really helped that buyer avoid all these additional fees. I have strategies that people can use that sets them up for success later down the line. And not only have I done these strategies for myself, but I've also done them for my clients. So it just kills me to see an inexperienced agent working with a client or a client working on their own when they could save so much money. They're worried about saving this small amount, but then losing that bigger amount later down the line. But that's where this whole thing came from. Like, we want to set up our buyers for success, make sure that they're happy with their purchases and that they feel like they got the best deal possible. But without having that representation, it increases the vulnerability in real estate transactions as well. This shift could have a broader implication, including a decrease in demand for homes. People are saying a destabilization of the market, affecting both buyers and sellers. Now, I do think that that's a little bit extreme. I don't think that it's going to destabilize, because people who know how to buy a house, they're still going to buy a house. There is so much information online. It's not going to be super hard to do. And as all of this unfolds, there's going to be a lot more videos and how-to blogs that are going to help people buy houses without real estate agents, this channel included. I think that it's not going to allow for the average person to buy real estate. You're really going to have to know what you're doing. And I believe it's going to cost more in the long run. People are saying that this is going to reduce real estate fees. No one has agreed to reduce real estate fees. Right now, in an economy where everything is so inflated, I highly doubt that real estate agents are going to be decreasing their fees. I could see them increasing their fees because it's going to be harder to attain those high quality clients that want to work with a real estate agent. So they're going to have to spend more on marketing. They're going to be spending more time out in the field. There's just a lot. Anyway, I don't agree with that whole part, but it does affect buyers and sellers. Low income borrowers are at risk of being taken advantage of and not knowing what they're getting themselves into, potentially exacerbating inequalities in the housing market. Think about it. Like if there was a buyer that didn't know what they were doing and the listing agent and the seller could sense that they didn't know what they were doing, it's like fresh meat for the sharks. Now, on the other hand, why should a seller pay a buyer's agent fee? It seems unfair, right? I thought that in the first place. If I were a seller, I could save more money by only paying for my own representation. Why do I have to pay for the other side's representation when they're the ones that are coming after me to get my roof fixed, to, fix all these things? I'm over here paying the buyer's agent to basically contend against me. It doesn't seem fair, does it? I had a recent situation where there was a home that was being sold by the owner who was not willing to pay the buyer agent fee. The buyers really loved the home, but the fact that they were using their VA loan put them in a bind because VA borrowers can't pay real estate agent fees. So this would be one reason why it helps sell the house quicker for sellers. The other thing is that the sellers are allowing a professional to come in on the opposing side to vet the house. And this way, they're showing the public that they have nothing to hide. And if something were to ever happen in court, sellers would have more evidence that they did their best to sell a house and disclose every potential issue, allowing a third professional party to come in and judge the house on behalf of their buyer. And the third thing is that our goal is to make sure that home ownership is attainable for everyone and that everyone gets good representation. And so that's kind of also a concern on the other side. But I get that there is a lot of animosity and a lot of distrust between the public and real estate agents when real estate agents are always bragging about how many homes they've sold and how much commission they made and all this crazy stuff that makes you feel like you overpaid your agent. They're over here driving around in nice cars, and some real estate agents make more than what the seller actually made selling their house, and it seems so unfair. I am seeing a lot of real estate agents saying, well, that fee has always been negotiable and you never had to pay a buyer agent, but that feels like gaslighting to me. Like here they are saying, like, we are tired of feeling lied to, and you're saying, well, I never lied to you, but you never openly expressed it either. How many sellers really knew that they didn't have to pay that fee? I had no idea. I told you earlier, I didn't even know I was paying the buyer agent fee. Like for me, I take a fee. This is what I do. I take a fee for a listing, but that money goes towards photography. It goes towards video marketing. I run ads on all of my listings. I also pay for postcards. You get these nice brochures. Like you get a lot when you list with me. But out of that, I also pay my assistant. I also pay the buyer's agent. So in our minds, we're thinking, well, we're just paying out our fees, right? I'm having a buyer agent come in and do the buyer agent part. But the Department of Justice does not see it that way. And I think the biggest thing is that people weren't open and honest about it and not having that conversation. And so people felt kind of blindsided. So that's to me, that's where the breakdown was. I would have rather known that I am paying, and here are the benefits of why I should have paid. Now, the other thing is that builders pay a buyer agent fee, which saves the buyer more money in this new world of realtor fees. And so then you're going to be competing with new construction where they're also paying the fee. They're giving all these incentives. They're trying to control the market and set the pace for housing. So the seller's not even giving any incentives to buy the house, yet the new construction people are. It's going to be cheaper because they're helping buy down the rate. So why would I buy your house when I can buy this house over here that is going to take care of me? So there's a lot of different factors to think about on a bigger picture level. Now, the DOJ is hungry for blood, and here's what they want this to look like by the end of the year. Back in April, the U.S. Court of Appeals lifted restrictions to allow an investigation against the National Association of Realtors, or NAR, as I will refer to here on out, regarding the cooperation policy to protect competition for the benefit of homebuyers. Now, here's where it gets kind of weird for me. There is competition. I actually sat down at a listing appointment where the dad came to the appointment, and he's like, well, I think you should, reduce your fee. And I'm like, I do a lot for my sellers. I want to make sure that this home gets sold as quickly as possible with the least amount of friction in a very quick time so that the seller can move on with their life and move on to their next chapter. Who wants to sit around for 3 months showing house day in, day out, cleaning up for a showing, taking the dogs out for a showing? No one wants to do that for months on end. I told the seller's father, there's a lot of flat rate brokers that will do it for a flat fee, and they're going to include whatever they do inside of that plan. And I'm happy to recommend you to one of these flat fee brokerages, but I'm not about having listings sit on the market. I'm trying to get this thing sold as quickly as possible. So my marketing is high end, and I can't sell it for cheap like that. There is competition. You can go to another realtor and have them do it for the price that you want them to do. So all I'm saying is that there are brokerages out there that will do that for you, the flat rate fee or a reduced fee. Redfin, heck, they'll even give you money back if you work with them. Now, their website goes on to say that the real estate commissions in the US greatly exceed those in any other developed economy, and some NAR member brokerages that I know of do require a minimum of a certain amount to buyer agent. Now, I'm pretty sure that they're going to be changing that after all of this changes. But I know this because it was part of the reason why I left my previous brokerage. I was working with a young couple who was being relocated by the military to the East Coast. Now, the seller bought at the height of the market and there was little to no equity. The property taxes had also increased by 30%, which further chipped away at their bottom line. Now, I wanted to work with them and help them because she was a nurse who just was experiencing a tragic moment. So I wanted to take the stress off of them with that financial burden. So I reduced my fee significantly so that they could at least break even on the sale. But my office told me I had to pay the buyer agent a specific amount as it was the office policy, which apparently I didn't read that part through, and that's probably my own fault. But I was able to get the job done for them, and they actually made money after the sale. But unfortunately, I didn't because of this office policy. Now, I'm not trying to talk down about the brokerage, but simply shed some truth on what happens behind the scenes. Now, in order to place listings on the MLS, we had to pay a buyer agent fee. In the MLS, you can see that this fee is displayed. A lot of people probably haven't noticed it, but you can see it on Zillow if you scroll down. Now, according to justice.gov, what they're wanting to do is remove that fee entirely to get buyers used to, and this is just me thinking, that they want buyers to get used to paying for their own fees and not relying on the seller to pay it. But that was the whole point of the MLS, from what I understood. It was so that you can partner with a buyer agent on there and do that together. I know that they had recently changed it to where you could just put $1 on there. Obviously, they're wanting to make changes for the better. According to justice.gov, the Department of Justice press release, NAR has made rules that make it harder for home buyers to find the best deals. I've not seen this in my market, but apparently it's a thing. And these new rules will stop multiple listing services from showing how much commission a buyer's agent will get. It will also prohibit buyer's agents to pretend that their services are free, to not be able to hide homes with lower commissions, and also limit access to lockboxes that only NAR affiliated brokers could use. So basically, the whole lockbox thing, I understand, was an issue. Another reason the DOJ is coming after NAR, and I kind of like this one, is because if you're not a part of a specific board, you could not show that home easily. I think it's gotten better to where you could show it, but some people want you to be a member. But some of these memberships were in the thousands of dollars in dues just to sell a house in another area. For example, if I wanted to sell a house to my buyer in Pueblo, I have to pay to play. Or if you weren't a member, you could not get access easily. You have to be able to access their tricky little lockbox. You have to download the app. You have to create an account, which I actually do kind of like to a certain extent, because it keeps the house safe. It tracks who's coming in and out. But come on, if I have a real estate agent license, I have a company, I work for a specific brokerage, but I'm just not a realtor member, I can't show the property. Like it just feels, that part I do agree with the whole competition thing and the exclusivity, like some club that you have to belong to just to be able to play. I mean, we're talking about housing. It's not golf. It's a housing. People need places to live. But thankfully that has changed a lot here in Colorado Springs. I can allow access to a property much easier with the electronic lock boxes. So They're not saying that sellers cannot pay the fee. I don't know where this is coming from where, people are just going to work for free now. Now that sellers are very aware of all of this, and the media has really gone wild with this whole issue, making up stories and lies about what's really going on.
Major changes coming soon to the real estate market. Realtor commissions, they are likely to drop to a fraction of what they are now.
It is good for both, Gio. You've got it. Long-time standard, 6% fee we all pay a realtor is now gone. The National Association of Realtors will reduce its fees and stop requiring that sellers pay both their broker and a buyer's broker. The changes could slash broker fees by as much as 50%, resulting in thousands of dollars in savings for buyers and sellers.
A lawsuit settlement by the National Association of Realtors is getting rid of the standard 6% commission for realtors.
I don't have to pay the buyer's commissions anymore. And I said, you absolutely do not have to pay the buyer's commissions. You never had to pay the buyer's commission.
This realtor says that when selling homes, commissions have always been negotiable and will continue to be even after a lawsuit settlement.
The bottom line is that sellers don't want to pay buyer agents. Buyers are very likely to have to pay the buyer agent fee in the future. If it's not provided by the seller, you're not really going to know if it's going to be provided by the seller. So just be fully prepared to pay that buyer agent fee or do it on your own. You can follow channels like mine that are going to help break it down for you and help you, the best we can without that representation. The buyer agent can still try and negotiate that fee from the seller on your behalf at this point right now in time. But basically, here's a scenario of what things are going to look like going forward. You're not going to know which homes are going to have that fee or which homes are not going to have the fee. It's just going to be like, oh, you're so lucky that you get your fee paid. Or maybe you'll just have to pay a portion of the fee. You, as the buyer, are going to be required to sign a buyer agreement before you even start looking at homes. You can't even step into a house without this form signed. Agreeing to the fee and agreeing to the services provided. Zillow is trying to introduce some touring agreement, but it's not going to fly because where I live in the state of Colorado, it's not a real estate commission approved form. So if you request a tour on Zillow, that form is not going to be good enough in Colorado legally anyway. You might get an agent that might still do it, but they shouldn't be. So just be careful with that part. I know that a lot of buyers are afraid to sign that buyer agency agreement because they feel trapped, but if you feel like the real estate agent is not doing a good job, it protects both the agent and the buyer. And I'm going to have a whole video on how this all breaks down and how it benefits both of you guys and how it relates to real estate commission regulations in Colorado. But we don't have a fiduciary duty without that form signed. But in this video, I'm going to go over what the duties are and how you can get out of an agreement if you just hate the agent that you're working with. But it's not fair to that agent if they're doing all this work, right? Working for weeks, showing properties, negotiating, and doing all the things. And then you work with another agent and that agent gets paid and the first original agent is high and dry. So this agreement is not going anywhere. By the way, for those who say that they found their home online and not through your agent, you kind of feel like your agent's not doing anything for you or not helping you find a home, I want to share a secret with you. Us real estate agents are the ones who are putting the listings into the platforms where you find your house on Zillow or Realtor.com. So it's our database that allows you to even search on places like Zillow in the first place. But I digress. And then your agent helps you transfer that property into your legal ownership lap and guide you on inspections. They negotiate terms for you and pricing, and none of that is going to change. There will still be flat fee brokerages or agents that will help you do this service for cheap. But on the other side, you may also pay a premium for a good agent that has the experience, who could save you more than the fee alone in the long run. Those things are not going to change as long as you have that signed agreement. So here's some things that you should know. Just know that you can shop around for service. You don't have to use that agent if you feel that the price is too high. Ask questions about their fees, what's included in the fee, and then make sure that it's going to be in your budget. Can it be negotiated? Don't assume that real estate agents are going to lowball themselves just because the media thinks that they should. Know that the seller may refuse to pay your real estate agent's fees, and you might have to cover some if not all of the fee. Know that you are not trapped in an agreement if your broker is not doing his or her job. Know that of the $418 million settlement, the lawyer gets his very large cut, and the sellers that sold within a specific time frame share what's left. Hopefully it's enough for a cup of coffee, at least the good kind. Know that people aren't really going to market on the MLS who's going to be paying the fee and who's not. It won't be displayed to prevent that filter of compensation and to keep everything fair. If you have any questions that I haven't addressed in this video, please drop those in the comments and we will make sure to get back to you right away. So how do you know if you've got a really good real estate agent before you sign that agreement? Make sure that you are subscribed to find out. But in the meantime, watch this video that's popping up next on the screen. It'll be super helpful for your real estate journey.